Apparently is it the DSA candidate? The Francesca woman is heavily favored to win. Is it the Wisconsin race or just the primary?
Tonight, a WYSN 12 Commitment 2026 election special. An unprecedented race for Wisconsin governor. State Democrats in a hellstorm.
What does that say about you as a leader?
Money troubles, scandal, upheaval.
We want to just kind of... All right. Rodriguez just dropped out.
Five candidates remain.
Oh, have you heard anything about this Moskowitz drama with the debate thing?
No.
So there was a Florida debate. This is my district, I guess, where there's like the lefty candidate that said that Moskowitz dropped out of the debate at the last minute because he didn't want to debate the lefty dude. But apparently he never even agreed to this. This is just like a random debate. This guy didn't even promote it on his Facebook or anything. So it was just like a random debate.
Oh, so he never agreed to the debate.
Yeah, and then he's just like accusing him now of like dropping out or whatever. Interesting.
Lie. Just lie.
In a fractured Democrat field, just days from the primary to decide who will take on likely Republican nominee Tom Tiffany. Tonight, their first and only televised debate at a critical juncture in Wisconsin history. Former
I think
Lieutenant
they should be
Governor
forced to do like a
Mandela
6-hour
Barnes.
fucking debate.
Damn.
All across Wisconsin, taking the fight directly to Tom Tiffany.
Former Tony Evers cabinet member Joel Brennan.
I am in this race, and I'm committed to continuing in this race.
Oh no!
Because
brutal,
Wisconsin
real voice.
values are at risk.
Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley.
Wisconsin, you deserve a strong Democratic candidate, and that's exactly why I am re-entering this race.
State Representative Francesca Hahn.
I am the only candidate in this race who takes income and power inequality seriously as the most urgent crisis of our times.
State Senator Kelda Roys.
Now is not the time to move backwards and be in more disarray.
And now, live from the campus of Marquette University in downtown Milwaukee. Tonight's moderators, WYSN 12 Political Director Matt Smith and upfront co-host, 12 News anchor Jaron Jordan.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are live tonight from the Marquette University campus.
We thank our audience across Wisconsin for joining us for the first and only televised debate between the Democratic candidates in the primary for Wisconsin governor. Mandela Barnes, Joel Brennan, David Crowley, Francesca Hahn, and Kelda Roys, we thank you all for being here with us tonight.
The top vote getter in the August primary will take on the likely Republican nominee, Tom Tiffany, in November. With Tony Evers not seeking re-election, it is the first wide-open race for governor since 2010. First tonight, a few ground rules. This is a debate, but we'll be having a conversation. We'll be discussing some of the key issues facing Wisconsin. Candidates are asked to state their positions, stay on topic, and to be concise. The candidates may speak to each other, but we will manage the time on any given topic and move the conversation along if necessary.
At the end, each
those
candidate
Trump
will make a brief
2020 his
closing
first term
statement.
debates were awesome.
That was crazy times, yeah.
It is fair to say that this race has been chaotic over the last few weeks, so let's get right to it.
Mr. Crowley, 3 weeks ago, you dropped out of this race saying you couldn't see a path to victory. 11 days ago, the primary upended when Sarah Rodriguez dropped out.
He came back?
And you made the unprecedented move of re-entering the race with an immediate endorsement from Governor Tony Evers. Since then, you have been linked to a social media account that includes offensive posts. You said you didn't write any of those. And some have accused you of being the latest prop for the Democratic establishment. So, are you, and why should voters now trust your judgment and ability to win?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having us. But I was never born into the establishment. I was actually born into struggle. I grew up in the 53206 zip code.
Okay. You gotta give it to me a little bit.
Okay, I'm listening. Oh, this is gonna be a bad one, huh?
No. Jamie Foxx collateral. A little bit. Just a little.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah, a little. Just a little bit. A little bit.
Like, Jamie Foxx's cousin.
I had to work extremely hard.
Jamie Foxx's what?
Cousin.
Okay. Absolutely. A little bit.
everything that I have. And so I'm not here to protect the establishment. I'm here to deliver real results for Wisconsinites all over our states. And, I like to make decisions based off of the data, based off of facts. And we learned ever since that day that a lot of things have changed and we were going off of false data. And so we know that the stakes are too high this upcoming election, and that's why I got back into this race. And I'm honored to not only have the endorsement of Governor Tony Evers, but labor unions and leaders all across this state who believe in my leadership.
Well, okay, from YouTube, thank you for $100 bucks.
To delivering for all of Wisconsin.
Ms. Hong, you are the Democratic Socialist who is leading in all of the polls, yet some Democrats are attempting to stop you from winning, fearful that you cannot beat Republican Tom Tiffany. Just this weekend, the co-chair of the Democratic Socialist of America, which you are a member, reaffirmed the DSA's position of abolishing the Senate, prisons, and replacing the presidency and the Supreme Court as we...
A bit off topic, but isn't it weird that Dave said so much wrong stuff about your personal life? Do you think you got hit by the snarkers? Well, if you go and search for stuff about me, you can find all sorts of shit, so that's not surprising at all.
You know it. Do you fully back the DSA platform, and why should primary voters trust your judgment and your ability to win statewide?
Well, first, thank you so much to the team at WISN and Marquette University for hosting this important debate. I do not support the full platform of the national DSA, and I am not endorsed by DSA National. What democratic socialism is a form of government that puts working class people first, that puts work first. The policies that we have been working on, permanent affordability, has broad bipartisan support in every corner of the state. Well, things like fully funding our public schools, ensuring that we are doing right by our kids and cutting property taxes, taxing the ultra wealthy and mega corporations, ensuring that we can invest in free childcare and that everyone has access to affordable housing. And we are the only campaign to support a moratorium on AI data centers, and we have found broad bipartisan support. I am looking forward to helping the Democrats become the big tent party that they've aimed to be for many years.
Mr. Barnes, you were once seen as the clear frontrunner in this race. You previously lost a statewide election for U.S. Senate when the field cleared for you. In fact, last year, the Milwaukee Courier said, "We need a candidate who can unite this state and win." Mandela Barnes already showed us he can't.
Damn.
And Governor Tony Evers recently endorsed David Crowley over you.
Damn.
So why should primary voters now trust you that you can win statewide this time?
Well, thanks so much for the question, and thanks so much for having me. There's not a single person on this stage who's united all shades of blue of the Democratic Party as I have before. Now, that race in 2022, it was the closest U.S. Senate race in the state in over 100 years. It was the closest challenge to any incumbent across the entire country. No incumbent lost statewide. Now, while D.C. insiders like Chuck Schumer didn't see the race as winnable,
DC
Republican billionaires certainly did. They spent over $50 million to defeat me, and I only lost by 1 point, 26,000 votes. Now, I can tell you, having been the only person on this stage who's actually won statewide in 2018, when we kicked Scott Walker out of office for good, that race was also decided by 1 point. Now, I've been on both sides of the coin, and you learn a whole lot more when you lose. When you win, you think you did everything right. But when you come up that short, you have a whole lot of time to think about the things that went wrong. You learn about the devastating impact of big money in politics. You also learn about how low Republicans can get. And I can tell you, right now we have the resources and we have the support to get it done. And on the terms of Governor Evers, I have zero interest in upholding the status quo. I have zero interest in being the establishment candidate. That is the difference right here on the stage, because I am pushing the envelope to make sure that we are as bold as we can possibly be in the Donald Trump era, because that's what people have been calling for Democrats to be all along, and we have not truly met the moment.
Thank you.
Mr. Brennan and Ms. Royce, you are both polling in the single digits and have been since the start of this race. At this point, are primary voters wasting their vote on a vote for you, Mr. Brennan?
Well, here's what I would tell you is I don't think primary voters have been paying much attention until the last 2 weeks and all the upheaval that you have seen. This is what I find when I am going out around the state is that, and this has been verified by polls that was done here by my alma mater at Marquette, because about half the people at this point haven't made a decision, and so that is a lane that's opening up. The challenge that I have had from day one is not that anybody thinks I'm unqualified for the office. I served as the top appointee to Governor Evers. We created the largest budget surplus in state history. We increased the rainy day fund. We got billions of dollars out to family farms, to small businesses, to renters.
Thoughts on Trump officially saying that China created COVID in a lab? Didn't they already release like a whole fucking COVID thing? I don't know why they released another one.
needed it during COVID. So all of that stuff puts me in good stead. The challenge I have had is that people don't know me as well as they know some other candidates around the state. And so what I have found in recent days is that the disruption, the upheaval, somebody putting their thumb on the scale, it has gotten people much more engaged and much more interested in this race. And day by day, I am feeling that momentum, and I'm feeling people who want somebody who can beat Tom Tiffany in the fall and who can hit the ground running on day one. And I will put my qualifications on those issues up against anybody in this race.
Mr. Brennan, thank you. Ms. Royce, you are continuing to poll in the single digits as well. At this point, are primary voters wasting their vote on a vote for you?
If you want the best public schools in the nation for your children, if you want to open up the state's health care plan so that everyone can buy in and we can lower costs for all Wisconsinites, if you want a candidate who is going to stand up and fight Donald Trump and bring an end to this authoritarian regime, then you should vote for me. I am the candidate in this race that brings the most experience in and around state government, with 10 years of service in the legislature and the only one who served on the state budget committee. I've also been an executive in the private and nonprofit sectors, and for over 20 years, I've been the candidate that has turned progressive ideas, like the kind that all of us have on this stage,
into a reality.
Into law.
Wow.
That kind of experience is absolutely essential. And voters need to think about not just who can beat Tom Tiffany, although that is important, not just who can deliver a Democratic legislature, although that is vitally important, but who can actually do the job on day one. And I am proud to have earned by far the most endorsements of any candidate in this race, including the most endorsements in Milwaukee County, the most largest labor union endorsement with WEAC, the state teachers union, and the endorsement of former Lieutenant Governor Barbara Lawton.
Thank you all. Last week, a Madison police officer shot and killed a man. Tonight, the investigation and the protests continue.
Jesus Christ.
Governor Tony Evers.
What? You think that's,
A man is dead.
You think death is funny? You think it was funny that he shot and killed a man? Okay, interesting.
Has called for transparency and accountability and urged for peaceful protests. Ms. Hong, in the hours following the shooting, standing alongside protesters, you said, quote, "The state-sanctioned violence was an execution." Would you make those immediate declarations as governor, even though an investigation had not yet started?
Ooh.
No, the governor has the largest microphone in the state, and there comes deep responsibility with that. But what we saw in videos and what I had talked to folks who had witnessed that, I think what we saw, it was clearly the type of violence where...
Is this the first time she's been on like a major stage doing a debate, or she seems really nervous? I know she's been on a few like
They
mic
said
and
this is her
sounds
first
fun.
debate.
Okay,
Right, their
okay.
first debate.
no one's life should have been
Can you pull up
taken.
the
My
video
thought...
of this guy?
What guy?
They're talking about a guy who got fucking murdered in Wisconsin. I want to
Well,
see
you
it.
guys are the cop sloppers. Why didn't you watch it?
Well, I haven't seen it yet. I didn't know.
Huh.
are with Corey
I don't have it. I don't know.
Ruiz
Somebody check him,
and
like-
his family, and I hope that the accountability and transparency that both the Governor Evers and I have called for, the independent investigation, the investment in body cameras. We want local governments to be able to invest in public safety, to be serious about public safety, and I plan to be a partner in that.
You have also called to defund and abolish police
public
before,
speaking
while
is not
saying your
very good.
ideal world is one without prisons. Would you sign a bill or budget that cuts funding for police departments?
No.
No.
Oh.
Why not?
The governor cannot defund police, and I'm not here to govern by slogan. I'm here to make sure that I am the governor that is most serious about public safety, and that means investing in the things that we know prevent crime, and getting resources to victims, and ensuring that the people who are incarcerated and the folks who are working in our prisons are able to live a life of dignity and work with dignity. I think it's important that we invest in communities, including our public schools, out of school programs and mental health resources, and attacking the opioid epidemic. These are things that are proven to prevent crime, and this is what will help to make sure that we have a government that is serious about
Is the
public
mic too
safety.
low?
Mr. Barnes, you have
Is that why it's
previously
hitting
shown
the-
support.
I don't know. Something is fucked with it. I don't know much about how I've heard different things about how pop filters actually work, but something is bad, obviously, with the plosives on the mic.
For reducing police funding and abolishing ICE. Following the Madison shooting, you said you were deeply disturbed and pained. Would you sign a bill or budget that cuts funding for police departments?
First of all, we should all be very disturbed by what we saw in those images, what we saw in the video. And we should
death bad.
fight as hard as we possibly can as a state, as a people, as a society, to make sure that never happens again.
So are you pro
and
death?
Body cameras, of course, are the norm. It should be the norm. And I wish that the Madison Police Department did have those body cameras. So, of course, I would not sign a budget.
Cams?
The cops yelled taser, 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 then shot him with a gun. By the way, it was a black man they shot. Thanks for that. Warning, disturbing video. I'm turning this off on stream because I don't know if there's about to be some crazy shit. One sec.
Oh, true on YouTube.
Oh, I think he's dead.
Yeah, I remember this one actually. This is a bad shoot.
Did he have a weapon on him?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I don't think so. At least I didn't see one.
Well, how do you know if it was a bad shoot then? Usually when I see cops that are like in this position, usually, unless it's ice, usually the guy, they think he has some kind of weapon on him, and so they're trying to be very, very careful not to let him like go for it and start swinging. Usually, but I mean, maybe they didn't hear. People that are
I think the reason I said bad shoot is because why not just genuinely like step back and then if he rushes at you, you get him. But we need people catchers, is what I always say. Those fucking Chinese people catchers where they have like the big sticks with the things on the end. That's what we need.
Maybe, yeah.
Unironically.
That reduced funding because obviously that police department needs the funding to have body cameras.
Ms. Royce, after the Madison shooting, you said we do not have to accept this as inevitable. We can create a more fair, safe world. Would you sign a bill or budget that cuts funding for police departments?
No, but I think we need to actually fund local communities so that we can do evidence-based programs that actually reduce and prevent crime. At the end of the day, I'm a mom and stepmom of 5. I want my kids and every kid to be safe in our communities, and I want law enforcement officers to be safe in our communities. That means that we have to invest in proven strategies that actually do that, unlike what Republicans like Tom Tiffany have done, which is cut funding to local governments and take away local control so that communities don't have the resources to be able to actually solve these problems effectively. I am really proud, as the only attorney on this stage, to be someone that has fought for and passed criminal justice reforms to make us more safe and more just. I have taken on racial disparities in areas from health to criminal justice. And I believe that Wisconsin can be a place where everyone has the freedom to thrive, but not if we aren't willing to tackle these really tough issues.
Mr. Brennan, after the shooting in Madison, you are also...
Waiting. Yes, hon.
Wait, who? Who do you think it looks a little bit like?
If I had to say, oh man, I don't know, but she does look like someone. I was initially gonna say not Jennifer Lopez. Fuck, what's the lady?
Skylar from Breaking Bad. A little bit. Her softer sister, her softer younger sister. A little bit.
You're always right, dear leader.
If we aren't willing to tackle these really tough issues.
Mr. Brennan, after the shooting in Madison, you are also calling for a full DOJ investigation. Would you sign a bill or a budget that cuts funding for police departments?
Of course I wouldn't. And I think, as others have said here, there's been a generation of disinvestment and a broken system between the state, the broken partnership between state and local government. And so we need to make sure that we're robustly funding that. It has been demonstrated this 115-year-old contract that we have had between state and local government worked pretty well for the first 80 years, and then the Republicans just turned off the spigot and stopped funding local government.
Damn
so
Republicans.
we need to make sure we do that. On the larger issue of criminal justice reform, we need to look a little bit to our neighbors to the west. In Minnesota, they spend about $215 per capita on criminal justice in that state. They're about the same size. They have about the same crime rate. We have about 3 times as many people incarcerated. In Wisconsin, we spend about $315 per capita on that. As a long-term target, spending that $600 million difference that they spend on other things in Minnesota, spending those on early childhood, on K-12 education, on other programs in Wisconsin, that would be the kind of investment over the long term that would put us in better stead and keep us from having fewer of these incidents, because they should outrage all of us, but there are ways that we can make a difference on those by spending our money differently.
Mr. Brennan, thank you. Mr. Crowley, without first seeing any video, you said that you were horrified by the reports of the shooting and immediately pointed to other police shootings, Kenosha and Minneapolis. Did you rush to judgment with your comments, and would you sign a bill or budget that cuts funding for police departments?
No, I did not rush to judgment with my comments. My thoughts and prayers are not just with Corey and his family and friends, but with the entire Madison community and everybody who's been affected and re-traumatized by this. Again, we have seen these types of incidents happening here locally with Jacob Blake, as well as George Floyd in Minnesota. And so it's extremely important that we have transparency. We cannot defund the police. We should be investing in public safety, and that doesn't mean more money to police officers. That's like investing in systems like the community violence interruption. Milwaukee County, we have been a leader in actually helping to reduce violent crime here in Milwaukee County, working directly hand in hand with not just police departments but also community organizations.
How
and
did
so
the
we have to
defund the police
focus on
slogan
not
get so fucking huge when it obviously seems like nobody really wanted this? Like in actuality.
There's a bunch of answers, and if you add all of them up, it goes to 50%. And it's young people, it is feelings of racial inequality in the United States, it's bad videos that we're finally seeing a lot, it's inability of the, I guess, lib left to ever say no to the far left. Like, all of these things, I think they add up to 50%. I think the other 50% is COVID. We were just like, everybody was locked in their fucking homes. Everybody was kind of fucking crazy. And fucking, what else we have to do but, go out and do some, fucking crazy protesting, rioting. Fuck it. Yeah, it was a time. It was a time in our lives.
Just investing upstream, but making sure we wrap around services around families so that they don't have to go down the road of criminality in the first place.
Madison police currently do not have police body cameras. Raise your hand if, as governor, you would sign legislation requiring all police and sheriff's departments in Wisconsin to have body cameras.
All of you.
All candidates.
Let's move on to the economy. Tonight, Wisconsinites overwhelmingly say inflation and the cost of living is the most important issue ahead of this election. The failed tax relief deal negotiated by Governor Tony Evers.
The hands up questions.
That'd be funny.
Republican leaders would have delivered rebate checks to Wisconsinites, directed money to local schools to lower property taxes, increased special education funding, and eliminated taxes on tips and overtime. It failed in the state Senate. I'd like you to raise your hand if, as governor, you would have signed that deal into law if it passed.
If it passed?
If it passed, would you have signed it into law? 1, Mr. Crowley.
Ms. Royce, you were one of the 15 Democratic senators who helped kill the deal. Why?
Because at the end of the day, my job is to be a responsible steward of taxpayer dollars. And this would have created a $2.9 billion deficit down the road, which our schools and our healthcare system and our local governments cannot afford. It also would have spent the surplus before it had even materialized. Look at what is happening with the economy. When we are spending money that we do not yet have, and spending it in ways that do not actually help us solve the long-term problem of getting more money into our public schools, giving property tax relief to property taxpayers, and making sure that we have a more fair, just tax system. All we are doing is throwing that money away on a political gimmick that was frankly cooked up by Robin Vos as he sees the blue wave coming and wanted to do anything that he could to either protect his members from losing their seats and run away from their terrible record on public education, which Tom Tiffany is partially responsible for.
Quickly, that projected deficit factored in zero economic growth. Would you consider zero economic growth? Would that be part of a Roy's administration if you cite that deficit?
Damn.
I'm looking at having a president who is hell-bent on making things as expensive and challenging for families across the state, and a congressman running for governor who has done nothing but rubber stamp Trump's agenda 100%.
Thank you. Mr. Crowley, you're the only one who raised your hand to sign the deal. Why would you have signed it into law?
Well, we signed it into law because we would have gotten a bipartisan deal actually done. I think folks understand here in the state of Wisconsin, when you have divided government, it can be a bit chaotic. Were there things in this bill that I did not like? Absolutely. I love the fact that we were going to give relief to our schools and property tax relief, and there are other things in this bill that I didn't like. At the end of the day, we know that there are many Wisconsin families who are desperate. We should be focusing on how we lift them up and not playing politics. And so I would have signed that bill because that means it would have passed with bipartisanship.
Congressman Tom Tiffany is campaigning on the fact that he would return the entire surplus, he says, to taxpayers. Ms. Hong, would you return the surplus to taxpayers, or how would you spend the projected $2.5 billion?
Those are the taxpayers' dollars, but investment is what we need, thinking about our shared future, our kids. It is an investment when we invest in public schools and ensuring that we are cutting property taxes but doing right for our kids. Our campaign is about permanent affordability and putting all of those surplus dollars back into taxpayers' money. I think that it would be irresponsible. And the reason why that surplus deal was so problematic is that those who are on fixed income would not have received that check. Folks who are lower income would have received less. I think it's important to think about some of the working class families across our state that deserve real relief, durable relief, and that deal was not it.
We should mention you did vote against that in the Assembly. Quickly, what would you spend the surplus on?
Public education and health care.
Mr. Brennan, would you return it to the taxpayers, or would you spend it, and how would you spend it?
Well, I think Tom Tiffany and the Republicans have already shown their hands about how they'd return it to the taxpayers. There are 3 sections in the studio audience here tonight. If the poor people and the people on fixed income and Social Security were sitting over here, they would get nothing. The rest of us who are doing okay would get the $300 and $600. And by the way, if you want a stimulating effect by putting money into the economy, you put it in the hands of people who are going to spend it. And so that was part of the deal. The thing that I would have exercised in all of this is caution, because we live in a Trump economy. I put together, as the Secretary of Administration, 2 budgets for Governor Evers, and we need to make sure that we are doing everything possible to be cautious in this time of Trump. The way that I would spend it, one, it would be cautious, but the first thing that I would spend, the first $100 million, which I will do in January, will go into child care and early childhood education. It is a system that is broken. $1 billion of productivity sits on the sidelines every year, especially from women, mainly from women who can't find affordable, accessible, or high-quality childcare. It is a K-12 and workforce issue. That's the first place I'd spend $100 million. Then I would restart the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund with another $100 million. Like, those are the types of things that we can do. That's bipartisan effort. Those are bipartisan things that have been successful. The Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, 90% of us live within a mile of a project that's been enhanced by that over the last 40 years. It's as bipartisan as it gets, and it now, as of July 1, doesn't exist anymore. Those are the types of things that we should be investing in.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes, would you send it back to taxpayers or spend it, and how would you spend it?
Well, let's first talk about how we got here. Now, the reason there is a surplus is because Republicans in the legislature have failed the people of Wisconsin. Our school districts are going to referendum every single year just to keep the lights on. And we also see gaps in health care because we are one of 10 states that has yet to expand our Medicaid program under the Affordable Care Act. We are in a world of trouble, and Robin Vos has never been a good negotiating partner. So no, I certainly wouldn't have signed the deal, but the way we give more money back to people, the way we actually return money to folks is by taxing the wealthy, taxing the billionaires, taxing these corporations that have been getting over on us, making money hand over fist while communities continue to starve for resources. This is how we can most effectively return money back to folks. And on the issue of affordability, the best way we can close the affordability gap is to put more money in the pockets of hardworking people. Our minimum wage is still $7.25. Costs have gone up, wages have not. But returning that money to the people, that means making the right investments in public education, making the investments in healthcare, taxing the wealthy, and implementing a working class tax cut for folks who work hard every single day and don't get the benefits that corporations get.
So quickly, what are you doing with the surplus?
Well, with the surplus, like I said, it's just reinvesting back into education. And also now, and also because of Trump's big ugly bill, there's going to be some stresses when it comes to expanding Badger care, which I still support. It is the right thing to do for us. So many folks are staring down medical debt, medical bankruptcy.
We're going to move on.
Put money into healthcare.
We're going to move on to taxes. We did bring up taxes, so let's move on to taxes. You all, in some degree, have used phrases like making the wealthy pay their fair share and discussed raising taxes on the rich to fund your priorities. Wisconsin already has the second highest top income tax rate in the Midwest at 7.65%. So we want to know what all of you define as rich. So, Mr. Barnes, under your plan, what is the specific income level where taxes would go up, and what percentage would that top tax bracket pay?
Yeah, so I think that incomes over $1 million should be taxed a little bit higher, even if it's temporary. The fact is we are in a real crisis right now.
A crisis.
And our necessities have not been seeing the resources, have not been seeing the funding.
Wait, what?
Is that going to get them a lot of money in Wisconsin if you tax income over $1 million?
Probably not.
I can't
guess
imagine
probably
there are
there
that many people
very few
making that.
people, for ordinary income. Hey, language question for you. Usually when you talk about definitions, you frame them as inclusive of all of the thing in question and exclusive to all other thing in the universe, yes? No? I don't think so. I don't know what that means.
Again, there's no reason these school districts should be going to referendum every single year just to fund basic services. And if we increase that tax rate by less than 1%, 0.9%, 0.8%, we do a great deal to be able to provide much more funding to our school districts and also help close the shared revenue
Is
gap.
that what you're proposing, 0.8 or 0.9%?
Well, I'm saying this is all. I'm happy to negotiate. This is
Okay.
what we need to negotiate. But this is the arena where I'm in right now.
Ms. Hong, the income level that you would raise
Do you agree
taxes
now with
and
that, like,
how-
policy doesn't fucking matter, and you shouldn't talk policy?
I mean, it matters, but when you come to govern, but not. You should
Not
probably
in,
just
like,
like
a debate.
message on like whatever feels good at the time.
The vibe.
The vibe.
how much?
Those who are making the $1,000,001, I think that the billion as well, to increase that to 0.9%. It is incredibly disappointing that some of
What
our
does that
lowest
mean?
income earners are
Making the billion as well. No one's making $1 billion in ordinary income in Wisconsin.
Or maybe even anywhere in the U.S. I'd be surprised, but yeah.
paying a higher tax rate than some of our highest income earners. We need to return to a progressive income tax rate. It is how we build sustainable revenue and ensure that we're able to actually increase our tax base across the state as more working class people are going to be attracted to coming to Wisconsin to live, work, and play here. I think that the legislation that I introduced that would tax the billionaire and add a millionaire tax bracket would lower property taxes by up to 44%. And we could put that funding into special education funding, which we have neglected to actually honor the budget amount. And we must bring that back up to 90% reimbursement.
And the percentage for those millionaires?
I would increase that by about 1%.
You would increase that to about 8.65.
Correct.
Mr. Crowley,
Increase the
your
property
income
tax.
level and how much would you tax
Ooh,
them?
nobody
Well, let's
likes
be very
that
clear.
one.
It's just not the income tax, but it's also the property taxes that are also extremely high in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, they always
talk
want to bring
about
down
that.
property
Okay,
tax.
well,
you
yeah,
always
well,
have
of
this
course
hard
they
thing
do.
where you have like the you've got this really difficult thing where you've got complaints about affordability of housing and everything, but nobody really wants to touch anything related to housing because all of your old people and your middle-aged people are the ones that own all the homes, and they want their shit protected as much as possible. So
we talk
Yeah,
about
but those
income
people
taxes.
bought the house for fucking 2 nickels and a dime.
no one cares. Doesn't matter. You can't touch them. They're big voter dudes.
Pissed.
We really need to be focusing on is how do we actually fix this system moving forward? What we need to do is take a holistic view of our taxes here in the state of Wisconsin. The last time that we took a holistic view of how we spend our money and bring in revenues was in 1986 when Governor Tommy Thompson was actually governor. And so we need to bring academics,
This
we
is
need to
based.
bring labor, we need to bring business owners and community members to the table, and let's actually have a real discussion about the entire system. I don't think that we should be just focusing on how we can increase taxes just particular for certain income earners when we haven't looked at the entire system. When it comes down to those who are making hand over fist, we absolutely need to tax the ultra wealthy, but we need to be smart about how we're doing things.
I need to hear somebody say this in the future because I heard this talking point brought up a lot I heard this talking point brought up a lot when I was at DebateCon off camera. All of these people, okay, not to burst any bubbles, there are a lot of people who talk about like repeal the 19th Amendment, and we actually need to go back so that only people that own land can vote. Have you heard this before? It used to be that only landowners.
No, I've
vote.
never heard this.
Oh, you never heard this talking about? They say
Oh,
only.
I've known that. Yeah, that was a thing, but I haven't heard people talk about it now.
Yeah, they said only people that own land, I think, should be able to vote again. Okay. Now, in modern America, rural people own land, and city dwellers are in apartments and everything. But when only landowners could vote, they weren't talking about, no offense, like the white trash trailer park people that might own the plot of land there. Those were wealthy, elite people. They weren't bucktooth cow fucking retards. So all the people who are like, we need to go back to owning land and voting, the landowner equivalents would be like your condo owners in your cities today. I don't know where this concept came from that like, well, when landowners could vote, it was like the average retard. No, that literally was exactly the opposite. Like it wasn't like the cow people and the fucking people from the Yellowstone TV show. Well, except maybe that guy, because that guy's super fucking wealthy. But yeah, I hear these people say it like it would only allow, I don't know, they keep trying to select for like rural people to vote. It's like, that's how it used to be. Like, no, not really like that.
long term.
Do you have an income level or a percentage for that?
Well, I think we always got to look at those who are making more than $1 million or more. Absolutely.
And do you know how high you'd like to tax them?
No, I think that we have to look at the entire system holistically.
What?
He's like mining him for a fucking number on like, how high do you want to tax the rich people?
Oh, yeah. It's also funny, like, because these guys they're like drilling into you.
And do you know how high you'd like to tax them?
These two guys are like drilling you with their eyes. They're like,
No, I think that we have to look at the entire system holistically.
Ms. Royce, your income level and percentage you would tax them looking to raise taxes.
I agree with my colleagues that anyone who's earning over $1 million a year should pay a slightly higher tax rate. But we also need to look at the corporate tax giveaways that have run rampant over the last 15 years of Republican rule. We have rolled out the red carpet for Foxconn. The AI data center tax breaks are estimated to cost us $2 billion.
damn.
All that at a time when we are spending $0 on early childhood education, when our public schools have been starved of resources, jacking up people's property taxes just to help our kids keep teachers in the classroom. So as a small business owner, it offends me that the largest businesses in the state are not only not paying their fair share of taxes, but they're often getting public resources. These are going to big polluters, big corporations, out-of-state corporations. They're not tied to job creation, and we need to not just tax the wealthy, but make sure that big corporations pay their fair share.
This is why I wish that the fucking AI data center conversation wasn't so fucking destroyed right now by slopulous who just hate anything. I don't know, who hate everything. Technically, they're like Luddites almost sometimes. These things obviously are going to generate huge economic output somewhere down the line. Now, is it going to be for the communities where these places are built? From the sounds of it, probably not that much, not even compared to traditional factories. But they're going to make money down the line for somebody, so make them pay for it. If somebody wants to build like an AI data center or whatever, like we'll have the most open field and you can frack our water tables and everything else, but there's going to be like a premium. You're going to pay a tax for it. You're going to pay something for it to make it worthwhile for the communities. I don't know if this is...
You have some other retard
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. You have to make some rule against like... I hate the city and state competition to the bottom of the barrel for tax incentives and shit is very fucking annoying because it feels like... But
even then, you're also competing against other states too.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. For states and cities,
okay.
that the people can compete against each other, racing to the bottom on tax rates like that. It seems kind of annoying.
Too.
Do you have a specific percentage in mind?
I think it's concurrent with what my colleagues have talked about.
Mr.
You're
Brennan.
going to find that I have general agreement that people making over $1 million should pay a little bit more, and we could talk about what that is. But I also think that there are other things, the manufacturing and agricultural tax credit, which is generally not paid to farmers and which has continued to increase to the tune of about $400 million. I would like to continue, we're talking about raising taxes on the rich. One of the real successes of Tony Evers is making sure that we have had middle class tax cuts and ensuring that we can continue to do that. Now, the other thing about this, however, is that, I like to win, and we are losing right now to Ohio, we're losing to Michigan, we're losing to Minnesota when it comes to economic development. And so if we're truly going to get to the Wisconsin that we need, if we're going to increase our population, if we're going to increase what we're getting.
Can you explain what racing to the bottom means? Like, if you have a state and you guys have a tax for corporations, or a land use tax or whatever, property tax or whatever zoning tax, I don't know, whatever tax you would put on people utilizing state property in some way, what'll happen is when there are big things that are coming in that represent, they are going to be big economic opportunities, they can go from state to state and they can say, listen, I know that you guys normally charge like a sales tax to businesses, but we feel like your sales tax is high. We're not actually going to come and build over here unless you cut us a sick exclusive deal on sales tax. And if you're like, well, no, that's just not the way we do things in our state, then the companies will go, okay, well, fuck you. We're going to go to this other state because Missouri says that they actually want our stadium. And Nebraska wouldn't give us a sales tax exemption on all goods sold during our sports games, but Missouri did, so we're going to go there. So it creates this weird playing field where a corporation can pick up and move to any state that is willing to cuck itself out as hard as possible for whatever tax exemptions these guys want. But the I don't know. I don't like that environment. I feel like it's not good.
Out of
How
our
do you
government.
fight against that? Like the federal government makes it illegal for states to like out compete each other?
I have no idea. I don't know how you even deal with it. Yeah.
Come from economic growth, and I think we need to make sure that we are aggressive in those things. You know, you don't need to tell me about Foxconn. I spent the first year of the Evers administration trying to figure out how do we get out of that $3 million obligation. Ultimately, we brought that down to $80 million, and we were able to invest and treat them like virtually every other company, and then be able to invest in Main Street businesses. So this is not just about how do we raise revenue. It's how do we raise revenue by taxes. It's how do we raise revenue through growth and making sure that we are growing our own and investing in economic development in our state.
Real quick before we move on, what if all the millionaires leave the state and go to a state near us that has a flat tax rate or a lower tax rate? Then all of these plans collapse, correct?
I think that's why that's why this needs to be a holistic strategy. You know, there's a whole bunch of ways in which people don't trust government and don't trust Democrats.
Well, it also sucks too for these like Midwestern states because, you know, like people will fearmonger over Mamdani or over stuff in California, but I mean, like, say what you want. People want to live in New York City. People want to live in LA and San Francisco. In the Midwest, kind of one of your big selling points is like, how hard can we cuck ourselves to your business in order to give you preferential tax treatment so that, please God, you'll come and please God build anything here. So, whereas I don't really buy the argument. I don't think anybody has ever left New York, and not a single person in all of history has left New York City because of the fucking tax brackets. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. However, for like a state like Wisconsin, not to be mean, and I don't know if these guys can bring it up on stage because it sounds bad, but like, what's keeping you in? What's keeping you in Wisconsin? You know?
Well, I mean, the jobs aren't even like the best there.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like nothing.
Yeah.
Is.
You like the ruralness, I guess. Yeah.
The rural. Yeah. So it's a harder. I think it's more difficult. I think these states do need to be a little bit more sensitive to the idea that, well, what if people just fucking up and leave? Because it's not like you can say, who are they really going to leave Wisconsin? They're really going to leave Wisconsin? No way. It's like, oh.
That's why I think they should be welcoming to the data centers and then just fucking tax the shit out of them. Are they really going to pick up the data center and go, or what? You know?
Maybe.
We better be in a position where we can demonstrate to them that when we're spending these things, they're also getting some benefit on it. So if all we're talking about is raising taxes, and if this is all going to be about how do we make sure that we are doing that to people, penalizing, if it's just going to be penalties, then we are going to start to lose. We need to make sure we're growing with everybody.
I know at least one YouTuber who left New York because of the taxes, made a video complaining about it. Link me.
How long do they leave the state?
You know, discussing that hypothetical is a little bit... I'm confused about that. Okay. However, let's look at all the other policies that we have talked about.
Doing that to people, penalizing, if it's just going to be penalties, then we are going to start to lose. We need to make sure we're growing with everybody.
Ms. Hong, do they leave the state?
You know, discussing that hypothetical is a little bit... I'm confused about that. Okay. However, let's look at all the other policies that we have talked about that we have been fighting for with our campaign. When there is free childcare, when there is fully funded public schools, when we see some of these corporate loopholes and corporate welfare come to an end, when we have investment in rural roads, when there's legalization of cannabis, I think that we can improve the quality of life for millionaires and ensure that they too will be able to live, work, and thrive here in our state.
Let's talk about property taxes.
This past year, Wisconsinites saw the highest property tax increase in 3 decades. School property tax levies. And
we also need a standard naming scheme because some like names for people, I'm sorry, are retarded. I'm sorry. Wisconsinite? What are you? A fucking alien species? Wisconsinite? Yeah, Michigander? No. There needs to be like a standard accepted naming scheme for, I don't know who's going to do it, but somebody needs to figure it out. What am I, a Floridian? What is that, an element? Or Californian? Californian actually sounds okay. It should all be oids. A Floridoid, a Texoid. I like that. I like the oid one, actually. Yeah.
Increased on average nearly 8%. Raise your hand if you as governor...
Did you hear the Sodapoppin N-word clip?
Yeah, he just said it. And his son has nothing to say about it, but if you did, you know.
Damn. He didn't actually say it, right?
It sounded like he said it.
Wait, did you hear him on stream talk about it?
No.
He said, "Good job, Nicholas." That's what he said.
I'm confused because Nick also says that Soda says the N-word.
Yeah, but I think when he says that, I think he's joking when he says that. But here it actually sounded like he said it.
It did, yeah.
But it really sounds like he said it. Like, I don't think Soda knew. It was like that moment we were playing chess or whatever, where someone was like, you said the name? I was like, no. And then I listened to it, like, oh shit, wait, why does it sound like this? Like, I feel like when I was watching Soda, I think he had that one. I was like, wait, what the fuck? Because it really sounded like he said it. But if you listen after he says, I was trying to say Nicholas, it's like, oh shit, never mind. I think it was Nicholas.
Yeah, I mean, I believe him. I don't think he'd lie. Because if he was gonna lie, he wouldn't have said. When Nick
well,
asked,
also, I don't think he would just let in. What is he, like a streamer for 15, 16 years? He's been streaming almost as long as me, right?
Just let it fly.
Yeah, you think he would just like, for the first time ever, he just fucking ripped an N-word on a fucking live stream?
Damn, Nicholas, okay. See, you inspired your friend.
But if you listen, after he clarified, and then I went back, you can hear him say, damn, Nicholas.
Let me hear it
Nicholas. He says Nicholas. He does say Nicholas, but it's...
Damn, Nicholas, okay.
See, you inspired your friend to be the best version of himself.
Good for you. That was great.
I'm having trouble hearing it, Steve.
Oh, man.
Would commit to an across-the-board property tax decrease. All candidates agreeing to a across-the-board property tax decrease. We'll start with you, Mr. Barnes. How would you make that happen?
Well, first of all, we have to get school funding off of the property tax rolls. That's the biggest thing. The reason we have seen these historic property tax increases is, again, because communities all across the state of Wisconsin have voted to raise their own property taxes.
Has anybody managed to do this get rid of the property tax thing? I remember when I was briefly plugged into more local Omaha politics scene, doing like a unified school district is really unpopular because the rich people really want their money to go to their schools, and it becomes like a killing issue on an election where nobody will.
Did Florida get rid of property taxes, or was it income tax now?
Florida doesn't have state income tax. I think they wanted to look at property tax, but I don't know what the fuck they're going to make any money on. But people, I'm not talking about getting rid of property tax to fund school. I'm talking about making a unified schooling district where all the property tax goes into one big pool. They tried to do this in Omaha. Where they wanted to call it like one school district or something. I think it was the mayor proposed it or a candidate proposed it. But I don't think that people generally go for it because they're just very protective of their own schools.
Just to keep the doors open. It is a very irresponsible way to fund education, to fund our future, to prioritize our children. When I talked about Robin Vos not being a good negotiating partner, when I talked about the priorities in Wisconsin missing the mark, this is how we end up with a surplus because our schools don't have the funding and the resources that they need. So what we need to immediately do is get to the state's constitutional commitment of 2/3 funding. We have to make sure our schools are fully funded. When our schools are fully funded, that burden doesn't fall on the property tax rolls. And then gradually over time, we'll be able to decrease property taxes.
We are there right now at 2/3 roughly?
We are not. We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Mr. Brennan, how do you make an across-the-board property tax decrease happen?
It was mentioned a little bit by Mandela, but this spring when we all celebrated Chris Taylor's win, that same night, 72 school districts went to referendum, 60 of them for operations, just to keep the lights on, not to build a new middle school, not to build a new science classroom. That is as big a condemnation as we can get in Wisconsin. And so I would immediately scrap that funding formula, which is under lawsuit right now, but it's probably going to take 3 years for that to work its way through the courts. Our kids don't have 3 more years to wait. I would create a child-centric formula where every kid has value regardless of where you live. You add on for special needs. You add on for urban, rural poverty. You add on for English language learners. Like, that's how most other states have done this. And if you do that and you recommit to that 2/3 from the state, immediately that brings down property taxes for people. And it gives kids and teachers and parents what they need in the classroom. This is where we have failed. The school funding formula has been around since 1993. It didn't work then, and it doesn't work now. So that's the first thing that we've got to do that would meet the needs of kids, but stop pitting property taxpayers against kids.
Ms. Hong, how do you bring property taxes down across the board?
As I mentioned, that we have already introduced legislation that would add a tax to the millionaire and increase the millionaire tax bracket as well as a billionaire tax. This would help us fund special education while lowering property.
Apparently by a ton, but I don't know if who's the current governor of Wisconsin? Are they a Republican or a Democrat?
I would assume a Democrat because I think they said that they endorsed one of the candidates.
Is a Democrat. I don't know then. I really don't know how she's winning, but I think supposedly right now she's like a commanding lead. Like I think she's got like a 91% on Polymarket. Hashtag paid sponsorship. I don't know why or how or what is the deal.
Property taxes by up to 44%. It is essential that we return to two-thirds funding and make sure that we are bringing a responsible end to the voucher program. This is a program that currently the state is spending over $1.2 billion. And I think that it is not just public school funding that is raising property taxes. Robin Vos and the Republican-led legislature has been decreasing shared revenue, and it is a deep inadequate funding for our local governments. And they too have had to go to referenda, and many are increasing property taxes. So increasing the levies and giving our local governments the ability to raise more revenue, I think that this is how we're going to make sure that
Oh, sorry, hold on. I just made such a fucking retarded mistake. When you think about probability to win is not like exactly what the polls are. So like if the polls came back like 55 to 45, that would be like a 99% chance to win. But it wouldn't be they're leading the polls 99 to 1. Yeah. So somebody in chat just said she's only 3% behind another candidate with moderate and conservative Democrats. I don't know. Or I'm sorry, hold on. But I don't know what everybody is polling right now on their own. Or like altogether. What are the polls? Link me the last polls for this.
He's getting flustered. We need a better aggregate polling site. I feel like they all look like dog shit and are hard to fucking read.
RCP is decent.
RCP?
Real clear polling. Sheesh! Okay, she does have a 22-point lead right now, though.
Okay, that's pretty big.
However, if... hold on. How many people are in this? If it is her and she's like kind of the outlier and all the rest of them are kind of like moderates, it is possible that they're like splitting the vote a lot. But then they would have to drop out before, I don't know when the primary vote is.
In the things that and the programs that they absolutely deserve.
And we're going to get to education and vouchers here in just a second. Ms. Royce, I do want to ask about property taxes. How do you bring property taxes down across the board?
The most important thing that we can do is appropriately fund our local governments and our public schools at the state level. That means getting to the two-thirds funding commitment that was made but has never been met. But it also means fixing the way that those dollars are distributed, because right now it's deeply inequitable. My family moved to rural Taylor County. That's where I was a little girl. And
these are her policies. Damn, bullshit right on the front. Policies. Oh, it's this page. Free school meals, universal childcare.
Good.
Support childcare providers. Fully fund public schools. Roll back unfair voucher laws. Special education. Higher education. Wait, is this just? Oh, this is for children in schools. Okay. Teaching is a profession. Guaranteed paid leave. Fair wages and working conditions. Gig workers are employees. Okay, W2ing them all. Improved Badger care for all. Expand Medicaid. Pull down healthcare costs.
They love their Badgers, man.
Crack down on claim denials by insurance companies. Make larger hospitals pay their fair share. Lower drug costs. Home ownership. Wisconsin's community land trusts and limited equity co-ops are innovative housing models. Interesting. Okay. Protect renters, right to counsel, home repair safety. Okay. Property taxes. Oh, so they want to cut property taxes. Jesus, okay. Local options for funding, close the estate tax loophole.
They want tons of new
Yeah, I'm looking for where's the money coming from.
and to cut more taxes. Very smart.
Wisconsin farmers feeding Wisconsin. Wow.
The money always comes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Whatever.
A lot of you guys.
Stop this.
And they moved because of the quality of the public education system here in Wisconsin 47 years ago. Now, raising my kids in Dane County, I can see that we have been shortchanging our kids, and that is not okay with me. So we do need more state resources to end this divisive cycle of referendums that are pitting neighbors against one another, grandparents against their grandkids' schools. I also am the only candidate in this race that actually has a plan, not just a wish, but an actual plan to bring that private voucher scheme to a responsible end, because the actual number is closer to $1.8 billion in each budget that is going directly out of the coffers of our local school districts into these private schemes. And they are unaccountable and they can discriminate against kids. And none of us as taxpayers should find that acceptable.
Mr. Crowley, how do you bring property taxes down across the board?
Property taxes are extremely high here in the state of Wisconsin. It's not just affecting the senior who's on a fixed income, it's also affecting that young person who may want to buy a home, and everybody's getting squeezed in every direction. And it's not just affecting homeowners, it's also affecting renters as well, because when property tax go up, landlords, quite frankly, pass those down to those renters as well. And so we have to tackle property taxes by, one, investing in our education system, increasing the reimbursement rates as well for special education, because our school districts shouldn't have to choose between mandated services and whether or not they're going to have teachers. But as the only elected official who runs, county government representing 19 different municipalities, close to 1 million people, we have a lot of state mandated services. And with those state mandated services, those resources don't come down the pipeline. And so it's extremely important that we work at the state to make sure that we are getting, local governments are getting enough resources to invest in things like public safety, because the state of Wisconsin is near the bottom or dead last when it comes down to investments and such.
We brought up vouchers, so let's talk about vouchers. Right now, about 30,000 Milwaukee children attend private schools using taxpayer-funded vouchers. Milwaukee was the first school choice program in the nation to help families who felt failed by the public school system, and still do so today. The program has since expanded statewide. As we've heard, some of you are...
I don't know. I wish I could hear more sane people make arguments for like school voucher programs, because it just sounds to me like the worst possible thing in the world. Like,
what are they?
Basically the idea that like you're in a certain district, but you really, really, really don't want to go to that public school. So there are different ways to get vouchers to go to other schools that are outside of your district that are still like publicly funded. And sometimes those vouchers even take away funds from the schools in your district. But it seems like what you're basically saying is that like our public education system is so fucking bad, we can no longer participate in it. So here's a way to like escape. But if you don't get a voucher, oh, tough luck. I don't know. It just seems like a really, I don't know. It seems like a pretty sad view of public education, I guess. I don't know.
Are calling to end the voucher program. Mr. Crowley, do you support eliminating or reducing vouchers in the city of Milwaukee?
Look, I am a proud MPS graduate. Went to Milwaukee Public Schools. All three of my daughters go to public schools. So I believe in the power of our public education. I think to say that we're going to fully eliminate the voucher system overnight really doesn't take into account the impact towards our family, towards our teachers, and quite frankly, toward the public school system. You know, we've talked about how we went to referendum to make sure our public schools have what they need. And if we're going to referendum for the current capacity of students that they have now, how will we be able to bring on those students and make sure that we have great public schools moving forward? And so I don't think the question is whether or not we should have vouchers. The question should be, how do we continue to invest in our public schools to make sure that they are the school of choice?
So would you sign a bill that eliminated or reduced vouchers in Milwaukee?
To eliminate or reduce vouchers, no, but I don't believe in expanding vouchers in the state of Wisconsin.
Mr. Barnes, you're proposing a multi-year sunset of the program as you've described it. What does that look like specifically in the city of Milwaukee?
Well, let's first talk about the reason why parents feel failed by public schools. This all goes back to the lack of funding.
Do you think education is one of those things the market doesn't provide well, or is the system just fucked? No, well, education, okay, so education can be provided by the market, but the problem is, I think that's the thing that you have to take a step back and you have to think, like, what do we want education to be, or like, what do you want education to do? And in my mind, like, education is supposed to be one of those things that's kind of like the saying is like the great equalizer. So if you're a person, you go to school, you try your hardest, that there's like always going to be something there for you, irrespective of zip code or background, right? As long as you're, you know, if you're willing to put in the work. Generally speaking, when markets provide for things, you know, you have like some form of pricing discrimination where, you know, the wealthier you are, the better the thing you can get. And I mean, generally speaking, I think that's a fine arrangement of things. If you're really rich, you can afford a better PlayStation or computer or car or clothes or whatever. But I think when it comes to education, it feels a little bit perverted. Like, I don't like the idea of like publicly provided education. If you try your best, you can go far. But if you were born in a shitty zip code, you're kind of restricted by, you know, the access to education. I don't know. So in that sense, I feel like there's a strong incentive, like, for the public to provide for some kind of public education, because do we really want that to be another playing field where if you're wealthy, you have like a huge advantage? I don't think it's good.
This goes back to the state not meeting its 2/3 funding requirement, and schools have been starved of resources. So it will only be natural for parents to feel that way. I am also a proud Milwaukee Public School graduate, but I know, having gone to a school that was starved of resources, what that impact meant on a lot of my classmates. And I was very fortunate to know where I was going to go home at night. I was very fortunate to not have to worry about where my next meal came from. But that's not the reality that far too many of our students face. And when we're talking about education, we truly have to talk about the societal factors that impact how our students do or do not learn. If we have these exorbitant rates of child poverty, it is going to impact the way that they learn. And as I have talked about vouchers, the main line is accountability, because we have seen horror stories where voucher operators close doors overnight. These operators move to Florida on the public dime. And so we have to first get the bad actors out of the system. Now, I believe public dollars belong in public schools. And if you receive a dime of public money as a private school operator, you should have to operate by a uniform set of standards. That means public governance, that means public accountability, public scrutiny. And if you cannot meet those standards, you should be taken out of the system. And I can tell you.
But do vouchers go down, or are they eliminated in the city of Milwaukee?
Well, I think that the income caps being lifted is a travesty, because that is what makes it a scheme. This no longer becomes a program for lower income parents to put their children in private schools.
So there could be less vouchers in Milwaukee.
It becomes a handout, and we can no longer, there's no justification for expansion of vouchers or lifting the caps if we have not fully funded our public schools. So yes, I would sign a bill that reduced them, because we have seen so much chaos with this system.
Thank you. He said,
we have seen, and look, a lot of students, and this is not an overnight thing by any means, but we do have to get serious about the delivery of education, specifically here in Milwaukee, but we also have to get serious about the societal issues that continue to plague our system.
Sir, he said thank you.
We always have the conversation about education, but never about poverty.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Ms. Royce, at what point in your plan do vouchers go away for tens of millions of children in Milwaukee, tens of thousands of children in Milwaukee?
Tens of millions of children. Oh, no.
No student in Milwaukee or Racine who is currently enrolled in a voucher program and is happy there will be displaced, and they will be allowed to continue their education until they graduate, as will their siblings. However, all programs that take public money need to be subject to the same rules and regulations that public schools are. Right now, you can do corporal punishment in a voucher school. You don't have to have licensed teachers that undergo background checks. You can discriminate against teachers and against students, including cherry picking students and saying, no, we don't want a student with a disability. I think that's totally unacceptable as a taxpayer and certainly as a parent. Every single child deserves a high quality public education. And what we have with the statewide expansion.
Do you think Destiny could be a kangaroo in a fight? Okay, I'm going to be honest, okay? We've talked about this on stream before. Kangaroos are not, these are mythical animals. These are not real things, okay? You see these guys that look like humans in outfits and they're like boxing and shit? Kangaroos are like fucking meme things that Australians talk about to like troll you into thinking they have like some crazy fucking otherworldly shit in their country. These are not. I do not believe that these are real creatures. The boxing mammals? No. Give me a break.
Expansion is essentially a program that has subsidized the private choices of wealthy parents. The vast majority of students in the statewide expansion were already in private school at their parents' expense before taxpayers started picking up the tab. I believe that public dollars belong in public schools, and if you take even $1 of public money, you need to be subject to accountability. And yes, over time, I am going to bring the private voucher scheme to an end as we increase the quality and the capacity of our public schools, because the most important thing to me as a parent, and what I hope my legacy will be as governor, is to restore Wisconsin in our rightful place as the best public education state in the nation.
So a 3-year-old child, for example, in the city of Milwaukee would not qualify for a voucher under your plan.
Jesus.
Correct,
what the fuck,
unless they were enrolled in a 3K
where are they going to school?
program, or if their sibling was already
3-year-old?
Thank you.
Mr. Brennan, do you support ending or dialing back the state's voucher program? And specifically, what is that?
Hassan watching Destiny talking about kangaroos and laughing right now, chat. Wait, is he live watching my stream? No.
train, ladies and gentlemen. I also have an update on this lesser known guy, Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu standing among Republicans has collapsed by 33 points.
Why the fuck do we care? Oh my God, bro. Move back to Turkey. Go talk about Middle Eastern politics there. Holy shit. You probably don't want to talk about Middle Eastern politics in Turkey, actually.
That look like for Milwaukee?
Yeah, and I do support some putting back the cap on for the statewide program, which has come off. I think that we've already talked about some of the accountability. There's a transparency issue. We should pass a state law that says on your property tax bill, you can see how much the city, the county, the public schools, and how much vouchers are costing. Like, all of those things are important. I'm a proud parent. My kids went to Milwaukee Public Schools for about 22 years. But let me add a dose of reality here. There is not going to be a bill that passes in the legislature that is put on the governor's desk right now to end vouchers in Milwaukee. You know why? Because there are representatives in Milwaukee who represent the city of Milwaukee for whom more than half of the people who live there are sending their kids to private schools. Like, we have to live in the real world. This is an issue that is dividing Democrats, because in Milwaukee, what parents deserve is a great option. And I want to make sure our public schools are better than any, bar none. We have the largest achievement gap in the country right here in my hometown. That's not acceptable. So the results aren't what we want. We need to hold everybody accountable. You know who doesn't like accountability?
Wait, so who do we like up here? Well, if we're doing spite politics, we like anybody except for that Francesca girl. Realistically, I don't really know much about Wisconsin's politics. I don't have a strong opinion one way or another.
Lousy schools, no matter what kind of school they are. So we need to make sure we are holding ourselves accountable, but we need to also make sure that that we are, living in the real world here. Because I wouldn't put legislators in a position where they're going to have to tell parents that they can't send their kids to the school.
But let's say a bill got to your desk. Would you sign a bill that reduced vouchers in the city of Milwaukee?
I wouldn't right now, because
hot take: standing up to the billionaires, okay, is easy. I want you to stand up to the middle class. I'm not going to put a bill on the desk that's going to hurt the middle class people that want to send their kid to any school. Fuck them. Fuck them. Tell them that, hey, this is America. We all got a chip in here. You are not going to be able to get infinite amounts of money from your billionaire. I know that they think, people have this delusion. They're like, oh, we just tax millionaires more and more. We can fund everything. No, this is a group project, okay? We're doing a team sport right now. It's the United States. We're all on the same team, okay? You're going to fund this shit. Everybody's got to be involved.
I think we need to make sure that we are doing right by everybody in the city of Milwaukee. There are changes to be made. The largest recipient of vouchers in the state,
he said,
$44 million to a virtual school. Like, those are the types of things we can change.
Ms. Hong, you are calling for a responsible transition away from the, quote, unfair voucher program. Does that include fully eliminating vouchers in Milwaukee?
No, I'm a very proud daughter of immigrants, a single mom where my son is going to the same public school district that I came through in my hometown of Madison. I believe that public dollars not only belong in public schools, but one of the reasons that privatization has grown across the country is that, it's public institutions of education that are one of our last remaining democratic institutions. And if we don't have strong public schools, we can't have a strong democracy. Our plan would ensure property tax transparency. I was in Luxembourg, Wisconsin, at the dairy breakfast talking to a gentleman who had no idea about the voucher program. And when he found out that the statewide program is where some of the public dollars were going into private schools, he was shocked. Ending that statewide program and implementing property tax transparency, and then moving to Milwaukee and Racine and looking at accountability and transparency measures that is uniform across what public schools are having to be audited for and the different regulations that public schools are responsible for. And I will say, I introduced the Healthy School Meals for All legislation, and that is a bill that would include all students in K through 12. It includes vouchers and includes private schools, schools for the visually impaired. And this is a type of bill that not only helps to reduce costs for families, but would help all students across the state.
So to the point of fully eliminating vouchers in Milwaukee, your plan?
It has to be a responsible program and process where we work directly with the families and the different schools where the voucher program, depending on how expansive it is in the school, but it would need to come to an end. And I can see, I don't want to put a firm number on it, but I do believe that, again, public dollars coming in public.
Can I try my language question again? Just ask your question. It sounds like you're trying to set up I don't want to say a trap, but it sounds like you're trying to get me to commit to something so that you can ask like a big whatever question. Just ask your question, whatever your question is, instead of asking me 15 different pre-questions first.
Schools, understanding that we have built this system where it's deeply inequitable, and I think that it's important that we put in the responsibilities of working with our partners to end the program in Milwaukee.
Eventually a full end in the city of Milwaukee.
I believe that that is what bringing a responsible end to the voucher program is, Matt.
Thank you.
Let's talk about data centers. In Marquette's latest poll, 76% of Wisconsinites say they believe the costs outweigh the benefits, and that includes a majority of Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. You've all outlined varying plans on how you would approach the boom in data centers, from new regulations to construction moratoriums. State lawmakers recently attempted to pass a series of regulations, but they failed to pass the full legislature. If lawmakers can't agree, and if you believe in local control, what really can you do as governor, Mr. Crowley?
Well, one, we need to, it's unfortunate that the legislature actually left session without actually putting any guardrails in place. And so as governor, we need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves from the data centers that are currently here. I do have the same concerns that many folks have across this state, but I think
I've only been half listening, but Hong sounds better than all the other DSA adjacent candidates now. Does she? She sounds like she's very nervous in this debate. I'm not even sure she's able to accurately represent anything she believes.
Moratorium, a short-term moratorium, doesn't address the long-term concerns that we have. And so as governor, we will make sure that we hold these data centers accountable, that they pay for the energy use, they pay for the grid upgrades, and they bring the Beyonce approach, bring your own new clean energy. We need these data centers to be as close to 100% renewable energy as much as possible. But they can go anywhere in this country. But we have to understand that our clean air, our clean water, it doesn't stop at the borders of Wisconsin. And so as county executive, we have put in place a climate action plan to reduce our carbon emissions, and we're 50% of the way there. And we need to make sure that we're having that same level of accountability here in the state of Wisconsin. But if they are going to be here, let's make sure we're utilizing union labor. Let's see project labor agreements, prevailing wage, and community benefit agreements across the entire state, because we're all going to be affected. And I believe they should be subsidizing our energy use if they're going to be here.
You said they could go anywhere. Do you want them here?
I couldn't hear you.
You said they could go anywhere. Do you want them here in Wisconsin?
Well, we need to make sure that we have a framework in place to protect ourselves moving forward, because right now we don't have anything right now with what's already here.
Ms. Hong, if lawmakers, they can't agree on any regulations, and if you believe in local control, what can you really do as governor?
You know, I introduced the legislation that puts a moratorium on the construction of new AI data centers, and I would call a special session into play so that the legislature can take up that legislation or the other Democratic legislation that had been introduced by my colleagues, and yet Robin Voss ended session early. I think it's important that we have enforceable regulation, that we bring union workers to the table, that this is very similar to what I believe could be seen as more collective bargaining, to make sure that we're protecting union jobs, and that, you know, the natural resources, we're letting some of the big tech companies know that they are not for sale. And until we fully fund the Department of Natural Resources and we have the actual regulations to hold polluters accountable, that we are including in the Public Service Commission, you know, different types of phases where we have stricter legislation and clear definitions of how data centers can actually move forward. This moratorium is necessary so that we can responsibly and put in enforcement mechanisms to protect communities. And seeing local governments already put moratoriums into play, we want people to have local control, but we also want to make sure that there are the guardrails, the legal resources, and that if data centers are going to come here in our state, that they pay their own way and actually pay up front. And I think it's important to say that, you know, the data centers that currently exist in our state, you know, there is a sales tax exemption with over $2.1 billion that could go back into infrastructure for clean, renewable energy,
Hong,
green union jobs.
Thank you. Mr. Brennan, if lawmakers can't agree and you believe in local control, what can you do to address the boom in data centers?
3 words to start with: get new lawmakers. That's why the stakes are so important this year. That's why we need a nominee who's going to win down ballot and make sure we can have a majority in the state assembly and the state senate. Once we do that, you know, what people think about when they think about data centers, they are angry. They're angry because government has failed them. The state got into the data center game and they put no guardrails on. And, you know, I have not called for a moratorium, but I have said that I would put a pause on the construction of new data centers, not for a year, but in the first 100 days, we can do 4 things. We can make sure that nobody watching tonight pays for the construction, the operation, the transmission, the ultimate retirement of these. Make sure that there are real teeth in the environmental regulations, making sure that they're having to do renewables. Make sure that there are Wisconsin union workers who are building these if they happen here. And number 4, make sure that there are never going to be the non-disclosure agreements arguments that are the reason why people don't trust government, why the reason why they're so angry about these things. If we can demonstrate in that first 100 days, and there's good legislation that's gone through 12 drafts, and Democrats and Republicans both, and stakeholders have had involvement in that. If we can do that in the first 100 days, it's not going to make everybody happy, but it's going to set the bar and take away that uncertainty and take away another reason why people distrust government and why they're so angry. Like, that's, I think, what governing is.
Mr. Barnes.
So as a governor, the response has to be bigger than buzzwords. Now, I do think that there should be no new data center construction without those guardrails in place. If a community rejects a data center proposal, then there should be no new data center constructed. And with the guardrails, with the framework that protects our natural resources, that makes sure that water quality, air quality is protected, that also makes sure that people's utility rates aren't increasing. If that framework is in place, it also needs to be retroactively applied to existing data centers. And we also have to have a renewable energy mandate to make sure that they are contributing energy back to the grid. And I want us all to, caution, especially, because I do, again, no new data center construction without those guardrails in place. But even as the representative mentioned, in urban Milwaukee, it was reported that a full data center moratorium may face legal repercussions. Those were the words of the representatives, not mine. And it is important for us to empower the Department of Natural Resources to make sure that they have the funding to engage in the ongoing quality monitoring of these data centers to ensure that they aren't negatively impacting air or water quality.
Mr. Barnes, thank you. Ms. Royce.
Something that...
What I think I asked a couple years ago, but want an updated take. As a single male in California, how do I know if I'm middle class? I don't know. It depends on, I don't know. These are like feel vibe questions. Like if you can live on your own in a place, if you can like afford a vacation, if you can, I don't know, it was like a bunch of baseline things and then a couple luxury things, I guess, that you have, but not super luxury. I don't know. It's kind of, it depends on where you live. And it probably depends on the era. I'm not sure.
One of my colleagues have mentioned, even though we are all running for governor, is using executive power against the existing projects that are
if you have a car, middle class, boom.
Under construction and were put under construction over the strenuous objections of those communities. We have a Department of Natural Resources that should be protecting our air and our soil and our water. We have a Public Service Commission that needs to be much more aggressive about making sure that the big guys are not asking us to subsidize them. I have put forth the strongest legislation and the strongest plan of the candidates in this race to actually address and stop the unregulated development of data centers, because I believe the status quo is totally unacceptable. The moratorium bill has very little support and is unlikely to pass, but the strong regulation bill that many of my colleagues have described is poised to pass in January. But I will not stop there. I will also establish a public negotiating team so that any community that decides it would like to engage with a data center has the opportunity to have expert negotiators. I will increase shared revenue so that communities don't feel desperate like they have to. I will also end the subsidies for data centers because they should be paying us and not the other way around. And when a community decides, yes, we've reached agreement, I will charge an upfront fee that they will pay to the state on the order of hundreds of millions of dollars to finance a clean infrastructure public bank.
I apologize if I cut you off here. We are kind of running up against time. Everything you've talked about tonight relies on a democratically controlled legislature. Ms. Hong, what happens if there's a divided government or Republicans control the legislature and your governor?
You know, I have passed bipartisan legislation, the one where it would require K-12 schools to teach Asian American history. So much of working in government has to do with building strong relationships, and I have done that with Republicans. I am willing to work with anyone at the table who wants to actually deliver for working class families and improve lives and work on policies that are going to be deliverables. And I believe that shared revenue, healthcare, and public education are three areas and some of my top priorities where Republicans have shown some support. And I've talked to them about these issues. And so I believe that even with the split legislature, my focus and my leadership will ensure that we are governing to actually deliver for working class families across the state.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. How do you get anything done with Republicans?
Well, I can tell you that's why this race is so important. That's why rejecting this broken system matters so much. That's why rejecting the status quo is so important when people go to cast a ballot. Look, we'll never be as bold as we need to be as a state if we continue down this path that we've been going. And it's been mentioned that the county executive had his campaign resurrected by special interests in a dark room with people with their thumb on the scale.
Damn.
This means things will always be the same with that sort of leadership. We should be asking for more. We should be demanding more. And if we lead with a bold platform, we implement a mandate. We have a mandate to govern in the interest of people in a way that we have never done before. And that's what this race is about.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. How do you work with Republicans? Get anything done?
You know, I served in the state legislature like many of my colleagues here, but none of them have actually run local government. You know, I'm the county executive of the largest community. And when I was elected in 2020, we had to work to get Act 12 passed. And we worked with Democrats and Republicans, and we've done it in Republican-controlled legislatures, and I do believe that we'll get a lot more done.
Thank you. Believe it or not, it is now time for closing statements. We did choose randomly with the campaigns present to determine the order.
Each candidate will have 30 seconds for a final thought, and we will begin with Mr. Brennan.
Thank you very much. While you've seen differences amongst us today, we have a common threat. It's losing to Tom Tiffany and Donald Trump. And the stakes have never been higher. We can build 100,000 new homes. We can expand Badger Care. We can stop having property taxpayers pitted against kids in Wisconsin, but we have to win in order to do that. For 25 years, I have been somebody who has solved problems. I'll be a governor who's more interested in results than rhetoric. I hope that I can get your support on August 11th and November 3rd. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
Mr. Crowley.
Thank you.
I want to first and foremost thank our moderators for hosting us, and I want to thank all of you who are tuning in today. You know, my story is like Wisconsin's story. I grew up learning the values of hard work, resilience, and to stand up when somebody tries to knock you down. But people all across this state are struggling every single day, and I know what that feels like. They need a governor who's going to deliver for them on day one. And that's why I have received the endorsements of folks like Tony Evers, Governor Evers, our labor unions, and folks all across our state, because they know I will be delivering the results that's going to make a great impact. I look forward to having your vote on August 11th.
Ms. Royce.
All of us on this stage are good people. For 25 years, I have been turning the good ideas that we've shared into state law in the toughest of political environments. I've stood up to bullies and billionaires just like Donald Trump, and I will never stop fighting to build the Wisconsin that all of us deserve, working alongside you as I have throughout my career. We need all hands on deck in this high-stakes moment to protect our rights and freedoms, to deliver health care for all, and to make sure that every child has a great public school. I ask for your vote on August 11th.
Mr. Barnes.
To everybody watching at home, I want you to know that the establishment is trying to rig this election. They want you to choose between their preferred candidate, and also Republican billionaires are lining up to the tune of $3.5 million to choose a Democratic nominee in this race. I'm here to say that's BS. I've been a progressive fighter who's taken on the tough fights, but also the only candidate on this stage who's actually defeating Tom Tiffany according to the most recent Marquette poll. We can get things done, but it starts on August 11th. I'm asking for your support so that we can go into November with the strength and that we can go into January with the mandate to govern in the interests of people.
Ms. Hall.
Thank you so much to the viewers this evening. I am your fighter, fighting alongside you and fighting for you. And this is a movement moment. Our campaign is one that has built a bipartisan coalition where we have reached voters in every part of the state. Republicans, independents, Democratic Socialists, and Democrats, they have come together and already uniting. We are already beating Tom Tiffany, whether it comes to the number of donors, whether it comes to the number of individual donations. I think it's time for this moment of unity, and I'm the leader to meet that moment.
That was quick, and we did it. We made it. Our sincere thank you to the candidates this evening for being here tonight, and thank you to everyone watching at home.
If you missed any part of tonight's debate, it will be available on the 12 News app, YouTube, and streaming on Very Local. You can look for post-debate analysis Sunday on Upfront. Election Day is Tuesday, August 11th. Early in-person voting already underway. Thanks so much for your time tonight. Have a good night.
Anything about the Fauci hearing? Did that already happen?
Yeah, he just played the fifth the whole time.
Based. Okay.
But
was there anything interesting from it, or was that it?
I didn't watch it.
So you don't even know then?
Well, I know you played the fifth the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to read this. Dave sent me a paragraph here. Well, he didn't like my my fact check video last night. He said I misquoted him a ton.
Did the Professor Dave guy? Did he just like debating retards? Was that it?
He's debating flat earthers, so.
Yeah, but is that he just likes to smurf? Basically, is that? Oh, it feels kind of cringe, but okay.
Things conspiracy theories. Yeah, I think there are some conspiracy theories in Dave's video. Yeah, I last night was all about just running the transcript from your video, Dave, through my my Pang Burn AI system, and reading through that and also giving my commentary. But I had watched the video beforehand. But today was my plan to do a full analysis like I'm doing today. Been accusing me. Yeah, I didn't show any of your video, Dave. Thank you for the super chat. Someone says, Dave Farina, you must think I'm Persian the way I ran. Dave's not happy with my friend accusing him of anti-Semitism using ridiculous logic. That's what I think that's in reference to you, Don, if you're still there. He doesn't like that I'm platforming Destiny at all.
Okay. But he can platform like anti-vaxxers? Okay, based.
Because of targeted harassment.
Oh my god. Where everybody always just like yanks the harassment zip cord like immediately. Like or ripcord, not zip cord. Where? What is the harassment? Were they bad comments in your YouTube comment section? What do these people count as harassment? Is that all it is to these guys?
I don't know. Does Destiny engage in targeted harassment of people? I mean, if Destiny does engage in targeted harassment of people, I would implore him not to do that. I mean, it might even be illegal to do that. Dave said I fixated on him using the word Nazi in a way I didn't like, while ignoring the fact that Destiny literally accused me of Nazi rhetoric.
Yeah, he does do Nazi rhetoric, though.
I think I said last night that nobody should be doing this, and I mean, you obviously sent this at 2:30 a.m.
Damn. That was an anger email. 2:30 in the morning. He mad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like how people throw around Nazi and Nazism and comparing Israel to Nazis in the way.